Welcome, I'm Michael Bickert. Thanks for joining me today as we explore concepts with the objective of improving your management skills and growing your business. It looks like some of you don't have your notepad or your pen handy, so the rest of us will wait. In fact, why don't you just go ahead and pause the video and grab a notepad, grab a pen, because we want to drive our businesses forward through action items. So you're going to pause the video throughout when you have notes to take that you can transition into or translate into action items that you will implement in your business today. All right. So today I want to talk to you about a concept that I've mentioned in several previous videos. I'll often refer to current state and desired state. And what does it take for us to get from our current state to our desired state is what we want to talk about today. Now, you may have heard this concept referred to as the gap analysis or just gap analysis. And I don't know why I've always referred to it as current state to desired state, because that's the way my brain works. And I think of things like, well, what's the current state we have? What is our present state? What is the situation that we're currently involved in? And where do we want to be? So that's the way I like to think of it. And gap analysis may be the technical term for it in terms of the business concept, but that theoretical term doesn't mean as much to me. So call it what you want, and let's just dive in and figure out how can we use this idea in practical terms. What is your business experiencing right now? That's your current state. And where would you like to be? Now, you can use this for, grandiose plans, major changes in your business, a complete pivot and going in a different direction. You could use this to redefine your business entirely. Like, you may be involved in a type of business that you can see the writing is on the wall and things are gradually declining in that industry due to technologies, due to changes in the market, something like that. Or you can use this concept for small changes, for something that may happen over the course of a week or a month or just a year. So this is a very valuable concept, and I want you to embrace it, learn it, and don't be intimidated by a new business concept like this. I mean, this is just a form of project management. It's just another methodology for sort of getting you to drive your business forward and go in the direction that you intend. I mean, you're the leader, you're the entrepreneur, you're the manager, you own the business, whatever the case may be. It's up to you to make things happen. If you're not going to do it, like I've always said, if it is to be, it's up to me. So if you're not going to do it, who else is going to do it? And sometimes when people do gap analysis, what they're doing is they've noticed something sort of reactively that they don't like. You notice something and you go, well, that's not what we had hoped for. That's not what we had projected. This is not where we thought we'd be or want to be. So let's take a look at where we actually are and where we thought we'd be, and let's do a gap analysis. That's sort of one way to look at it. That's not the way that I do it. I mean, these are really fine distinctions, these details about how to use this skill and this concept. What I like to do is occasionally proactively take a look at your business and sort of set some goals and ask yourself, where do I really want to be? Where do I want to be a year from now? What does the future look like for me ideally? And this isn't, we believe in BMI that wealth management is the simultaneous achievement of success of both your professional and personal goals. I mean, most of you are in business because you really love what you do, but it's also the means through which you accomplish your personal objectives. And sometimes we lose sight of that. So think of that as well as you go through this. When you're looking for a desired state and when you're considering the desired state, don't just think about the business. You need to make sure that your business objectives align with your personal objectives, and that desired state, when the business is has accomplished that desired state, that you also have accomplished your personal desired state. So each of us has to figure out what the desired state is. And what I'm really getting at right now is that I want you to be proactive and occasionally do this. Sort of maybe at the beginning of every year, it's a good idea, or the beginning of every quarter, or maybe every month you want to do this. I would really like you to get into the habit of doing this, and then maybe set up some sort of regular meeting where you and your other stakeholders consider your current state and your desired state. I think you should do this in perpetuity. So I think we should use an example to help us as we go through this concept. And I'm going to use a smaller example, not a major business pivot, but let's say you identify an opportunity in your business, such as online reputation management. So your Google reviews would be an example of your online reputation. And you look at it right now, and your current state is you have very few, maybe the ones that you do have are from upset customers, disappointed customers. You haven't really developed a skill and an understanding of how to manage that. And so it's abysmal. You're embarrassed by what your online reviews are saying, and you've not paid any attention to it. And then so what you would do is you would define your desired state. Maybe you look at the competition and you see, wow, the nearest competitor I have has great online reputation, and that's hurting my business. So I aspire to be in my market the one with the greatest online reputation. And how could we do that? And instead of me sort of giving you the exact details, I'll do a different video on online reputation and the strategy, and maybe you'll pick up some pointers on how to do that in this video. But the point isn't about online reputation, it's just the example I'm going to use to sort of coach you through the idea of using this methodology of current state to desired state. So our current state is our online reputation is abysmal and the competitors are doing really well, and our desired state is to be number one in the market. When a customer researches our product or service, we want our online reputation, our reviews and testimonials and things that are out there to, make us shine and really bestow an element of trust in the customer, in the prospective customers. So getting back to current state and desired state, what do? What's the first step? Well, you identify an opportunity, and then you start to you very well define your current state and your desired state. So start documenting this. So this, it should go without saying, but I'd like to remind you, you want to get your stakeholders in a room. So assemble your team, assemble those people who can contribute to this. So those people that report to you directly, those people on the front line. You all run different types of businesses of different sizes, but assemble the best, constituent representation of your organization to help you with this. And that is not necessarily your highest ranking people. It's not necessarily management. You want to have people that represent the various stakeholders and levels within your business, in particular those who are going to be involved in helping you to define the current state and helping you to brainstorm ideas for going to the desired state. And sometimes when you only involve the managers, the owners, these types of people are a little bit disconnected, and they may be unrealistic, and maybe they may have gaps, knowledge gaps. And so the difference between your current state and your desired state is what is known as the gap. And people talk about in this process bridging the gap or closing the gap. That's not the terminology, once again, that I use. What I use is the terminology of the transitional state. So when in our organization, when we talk about going from the current state to the desired state, we talk about we will be in transition. What are we doing in our transitional states? So when suggestions are made, we will use terminology, and terminology matters. The vernacular you use as an organization really matters. So make sure that people, whatever terms you use, make sure everybody who's involved in these discussions understands what is meant by that. So we use a term like if we're making a suggestion that something is going to help us get to the desired state, but it isn't necessarily a permanent part. It's during the transitional state, we'll have this, or this step is a transitional step. So that's what we refer to a lot. And it just makes sense to me. I hope you'll embrace that as well. Transitional. What are we doing throughout the transition? And you can also think of it as bridging the gap between the current state and the desired state, or closing the gap. So as I say, you will bring together the key stakeholders who are going to help you define your current state and your desired state. And then what you have to do, not surprisingly, is create an action plan and sort of break things into chunks. And this is about, it's really going to vary depending on if this is a major transition for your business, or if it's something that's just a goal that you have over the upcoming year or whatever. But remember, you're going to do this in perpetuity. You're going to continue to do this. So you will keep redefining as you meet with one another. You'll keep redefining your current state, because hopefully you're making progress in your current state during the transition. You're always in transition, and you're getting closer to a desired state that you once defined, but you may redefine a desired state based on new knowledge. The key here is you're going to create an action plan. I've always heard it said, what's the difference between a goal and a dream? The answer is a well-documented action plan. So you want to, with your team, create an action plan. And some key constituents of an action plan are to have deadlines, dates, and to have tasks broken out by what individual is going to be responsible for them. Ultimately, you need to use RACI. And if you're unfamiliar with the concept of RACI, we have a video on that you should watch and elaborate on that. But RACI, of course, stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So as you create this action plan, be sure to implement the RACI concept along with deadlines. Deadlines are critical for each task that you're going to break out. So you're taking this vision of the future and you are breaking it out. First, you're documenting it, and you're starting to ask yourself, well, what do we need to have? What would need to take place? So in my example of the online reputation management, you may say, well, our current state is we have 3 reviews, only one of them is good, the other 2 are from upset customers, and our competition has, by comparison, has 500 reviews, and they have a 4.8 star Google rating. And then you may look at some other things besides Google. You might look at Yelp, or what other, maybe you have an industry specific type of rating organization. Maybe there's also testimonials that you've noticed that a lot of the competition and others in your marketplace use on their websites, and you don't have any on yours. So you're defining all this stuff and you're putting this down, and you're like, okay, we don't have any testimonials on our website. We have a 2.4 star Google review that's public. There's nothing on Yelp, whatever the case may be. You're documenting all of that, and then you're saying, well, our desired state is to be number 1 in the market. Therefore, we need to have more than 500 reviews. And by the time we achieve that, the competition may have 600 reviews. So we may want to have a desired state of the most. You may define it as the most online Google reviews of anybody that competes in our market, and we want to have the highest star rating. And then also in our industry specific rating organization, whatever that may be, we also want to have the highest there, or we might want to have a A+ rating, Better Business Bureau, whatever the types of things that you're looking at for. You're defining that, you're documenting that, and then what you're doing is you're talking to the team, okay, what do we need to do? So you can see that, first you have to define things before you can start working on the plan. And then the plan comes out of the definition of the desired state. So if the desired state is to have the most reviews, then you can just simply do some math and say, okay, well, we need to get, if we intend to accomplish this within the next 6 months, we need to have X number of reviews per month, and we want to ensure that they're all 5-star, because mathematically we can't afford to get really anything less than a 5-star very often, or we're not going to be rated higher than 4.7 stars, which is our goal, or whatever. So you start doing the math and you break that out. Now, just to review here, you're using key stakeholders and you're going to have RACI. So maybe you're going to say that it's going to be person A's responsibility to measure the reviews as they come in and to report every time we have a review. And you can set that up with automation and that kind of stuff. And it's going to be person B's responsibility to respond to reviews publicly. And it's going to be person C's responsibility to, proofread the public responses. Whatever you figure out the steps are that you need to do, you want to break that out by the RACI method. And who do you need to consult and who do you need to inform, and these kinds of things. Now, as always with all plans, with all project management, and it's no different here, you, aside from planning and organizing and documenting these things, you need to measure. So you need to come up with some metrics. What are the performance metrics? What is your current state? What is your desired state? Make sure, for goodness sake, you have measurements that are well defined. And then the other thing is you need to consider your resources. What resources do you have at your disposal? What resources do you have at your disposal? And that can be your talent pool, labor. It can be your specialized knowledge. What financial capital and assets can you put to work? What equipment, tools, technology, your IT, all these types of things, your processes. You want to ask yourself, what things do you have that you can leverage to try to get you towards the desired state? And what's really critical in doing this is to consider those forces that are acting in your favor, those things that are driving, those factors that drive you forward towards the desired state, and what things are offering resistance. So that's another thing I want you to document, sort of put that. Driving factors or forces and resistance. Put 2 columns and then just start with your team. What things do we have going in our favor? And that's where those resources can be really helpful as you're brainstorming that. You can say, well, we have a great team here, and we also have a good understanding of technology because we have person A, B, or C who understands this, and they're new to the team. We didn't have that person before, so that's something that can be a driving factor behind all this. We have necessity as a driving factor. If we don't do this, our business is going to start to erode. And what kind of resistance will we have? Well, we've got a lot of people that have worked here for many years. They're not in the habit. They're not used to asking customers for reviews, and people don't like change. So you're brainstorming this with your people, and you're making a list of those things which are factors that will drive you forward toward the desired state, and those things that are going to resist that. And then what you want to do is, again, brainstorm, how can we leverage those things and those resources that are driving you toward your desired state, and how can we mitigate against those things that are offering resistance. And this really depends business by business what that's going to be, and certainly depends on your goals. What you want to do, as always, is align objectives. So the degree to which you can make sure everybody in the entire organization is rowing in the same direction, so to speak, everybody has this as a common goal. We all want to be number one in the marketplace in terms of our online reputation because it benefits all of us. Then you will succeed in doing this. It'll be a driving factor towards that. You won't get much resistance. Resistance is always a symptom of a lack of alignment, some incongruity between the objectives throughout your stakeholders in your organization. So explore that. Don't ignore that. People act in their own self-interest. And in business, people tend to respond to incentives such as how they are paid and those things for which their performances, or by which their performance is measured, and those things that contribute to recognition and getting a pat on the back. So make sure that you align those things. So if you find as a resistance, when you're defining your resistance factors, if you find that there are things like, wow, this person doesn't get any real recognition for getting reviews. We've never really acknowledged that. We don't have any awards. We've never, went out and recognized people that got us the 5-star. The 1 5-star review we do have, we didn't even mention that to the person who got that review for us. So these types of things you'll start to look at and say, what do I have to do in the transition? What are the transitional steps? And you'll say something like, well, we need to consider maybe an incentive, maybe a bonus for this month, where everyone who gets a 5-star review is going to be entered into a draw or something like that. And then of course you apply RACI to that. It's like, okay, who's responsible for putting together the contest? Who's responsible for tracking the numbers and making sure that we know where the reviews came from? You can see where this is going. So have some fun with it. I mentioned as an example, as you could have a contest. So whatever your transitional steps are, this whole project, you want to align objectives and get everybody on the same page, singing from the same song sheet, choose your metaphor, but have some fun with it. Management can create some great incentives and things like that. You don't have to spend a fortune on this, but we're talking about your business. And if you're really looking for changing from a current state to a desired state, you've got to be part of that driving force. You've got to put something in place that everybody can get behind. People buy into the vision. Everyone is going to be asking himself, what's in it for me? And so have a contest. Make it fun, or make this part of the regular pay plan. If you truly are going to build this into your company culture in perpetuity, that you're always looking for the accomplishment of some transitional steps and objectives to get you towards your desired state, then you can build those things permanently in, and you can just make sure that people understand that they're going to get recognized for the accomplishment of these objectives, these transitional objectives, and they're going to be rewarded either financially or otherwise. Have a party, have some awards, have some food, various things. Make it fun so that everybody wishes to participate. The next thing you need to do is, of course, reconvene. So you have to periodically get the team back together, and whether this is happening in a boardroom, in a meeting room, or in a virtual environment where you have a video conference, the stakeholders get back together. Occasionally you can invite new people who have maybe something to add, because as you've gained new intelligence into the transitional phase, you decide, oh, we didn't include person X, Y, or Z, and they should really be involved in this. You get some feedback. Maybe you're going to include some other the stakeholders that you didn't consider, like maybe a focus group with your customers. Anyway, periodically you have to reconvene. You got to get your group back together and discuss, where are we, and check off, did we accomplish the objectives that we had? Did the tasks, the transitional tasks, get completed by the deadline? If not, you have to involve accountability. You have to make sure. Be sure to check out the video on deadlines and the other one on accountability. All of these things factor together in the great transition from the current state to desired state. You need to understand sort of the micro portions of this, and I've got videos on each of those separately. So you're going to reconvene periodically, and at those meetings you need to have measurements. So of course you're measuring as you go. We defined the current state with measurements, we defined the desired state with measurements, and we used the math to work out some measurements in between, like, okay, well, we want to have 10 5-star Google reviews by the end of each week. And then you look at that when you have your meeting, whether it's weekly or monthly, but the key is you need to meet consistently to make sure that you're on the right trajectory. And then you got to look at those measurements. If you don't do this, if you don't reconvene and you don't discuss the measurements, then you're lacking accountability. You're just gonna lose sight of it. People say, keep your eyes on the prize. And we're saying that maybe literally there is a prize here. Maybe literally there are prizes at stake besides the desired state end goal. You have some rewards, some ways of patting yourself on the back in between, and that has to occur through reconvening the team and looking at this on a consistent basis. Let other people, don't just have one person do all the talking in these meetings. Let other people weigh in and give their feedback. You want to hear from everyone. It's really important. You know, the concept of respect in the Toyota way, and I always define respect, that it is considering the input of those stakeholders who will be impacted by the proposed changes that you're making. And so do not engage in this without considering the impact of each and every stakeholder who will be impacted. Otherwise, you're going to set yourself up for possible sabotage, apathy. It's not going to work. You're not going to have buy-in is the key. So you want to share your vision and you want to garner feedback from everybody. Have fun with it and measure. I think you're getting the idea of all this stuff. Remember, you can always change your goals as you go, as you get new information. There's so much we could discuss on this that the video could be, broken into 10 different sections and we could focus on each one of them. I just wanted to give you an overview for today and give you an idea of the current state to desired state, gap analysis, closing the gap. So that's where I think I'm going to leave it for today. I'm curious about what areas that I may have left some knowledge gaps in terms of discussing this. Where are some obvious things that you're like, well, I don't know how I can implement this. By now, I think you should have this isn't rocket science. You should have a general idea of how you can implement this. Try to implement this with something small. Start small and then maybe do this on things that you're going to accomplish over the course of a month. And then work into bigger things. And you'll get really good at this and it'll become part of your culture. That's where I want to leave it today. Leave some comments that we can all learn from. Perpetual refinement.